folks, I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily TA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming ones. I do a show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Folks, we had another nice big up day today. They just keep coming, right? This market, if it knows one thing, it knows how to go up. Today you had another nice push Dow almost up to its target on the ABCD structure. Misses it by about 20 points. S&P misses that lower ABCD structure by a couple points. The NDX hits its ABCD structure. Russell still has about 8 to go if it's going to get to its. And the composite finished it all off yesterday, up 0.5% pretty much across the board. The only one lagging was the Russell. And if we look over at gold, down today, not that much, 0.5%. It's had a nice run. The big mover, once more, dollar pushes up another, was it a little over 1/3% today. Employment numbers came out today, stronger than expected, pushes the dollar higher, pushes bonds lower. We're looking at late quotes here. The bonds are actually down today, but they did recover some. And, one more time, a good day in the markets. There's really nothing here that you have to hang your head and say this is horrible. Volume, absolutely nothing today, but then again, we're only roughly half a day trading, so if you multiply it out, you have about the same volume you had before. And like I said, the S&P, volume is about up in here. The S&P has finished off it's finished off, S&P hasn't. The S&P has 2 points to go to finish off its ABCD structure. There is a weekly one that raises the bar even higher, gets you over 2,000. But right now, it just keeps pushing, right? And you keep getting these moves up, one after another. And actually, it's not a weekly. This is the one that gets you up to 1022. The one that's almost within reach is the one that's nested inside here. That's the one that gets you up to here. So the larger one, measuring back from here, gets you up a little bit higher, about 1022 I think the number is up here. This one is a couple points away. So S&P, bottom line here, still pushing, still finding buyers at higher prices. Is there an abundance of buyers? No. Does it matter at this point? No, as long as there's not as many sellers, and there's just not any sellers, at least not yet. Draghi comes out today. He started revealing a little bit more details about the plans. He talked about an upper limit, an expectation of that new, I forget what it was called, targeted LTROs, the long-term refinancing operation. That's where they're trying to put money into businesses' hands instead of the banks. Targeted loans. Said it could reach almost $1 trillion, a little over $1 trillion. In comparison, the LTR they did back in 2011, 2010, 2011, I think it reached about 500 billion. So this is like double the size. And so now we're starting to see some of the size numbers. That also put pressure on the euro. If we look over at the euro, dollar got a benefit out of the out of the unemployment numbers, but also some benefit off the FXE dropping, and the FXE dropped off both as well. So FXE pulls back. It had been telling us it was going to. Remember, it was doing a retest regen up into this area. There was a swing point high up here that it had gotten over, and actually it was a little bit higher than that. So the swing point high that was there essentially measured from about there to there. All right, we just barely missed it here. You went into it and you came back out of it. It was more like that. Came back out of it, and now you accelerate back to the downside. So that's a retest regen. You come up, you come back into the retest zone off the swing point low that was over here. It's fallen off the board by now. And then you push back down. You're going to try to regenerate back to a lower number. So the key here on a regenerate is, do you break underneath these lows or not? And so from that perspective, you can see the retest has taken place. It's attempting to regenerate lower, and the expectation is that it probably will, because that is the trend. So that's the FXE, that's the dollar, that is the news that came out today. What does that do? Of course, it drives markets higher. Going back to the indexes, if we take a look at those, we had the Dow within 20 points. Dow is over the highs, 2 swing point broken now on the way up. That one actually can extend more. The NASDAQ composite, the broad composite, just keeps extending higher. It had already finished off 3 nested ABCD structures 2 days back. Got a doji yesterday, didn't matter. That's why, dojis are symbols, on a chart that says there was an equal number of buyers and sellers. And a lot of times you can get those at highs that tend to end up being reversals. Well, they don't always, and here's a case where they don't. NDX, and you kind of knew that might be the case because you had other signals telling us we were probably going to get strength today. NDX pushes higher again. This one finished off an ABCD structure today as well, so that one's done. And then there's the Russell. The Russell's been the laggard. Russell had the spike high to do a test of the highs, both on the daily and the weekly. Less volume. Inside days, last 2 days, I wouldn't be surprised to see it try to spike it again. Target on this one from an ABCD structure on the way up is another about 7 points. Takes you up to about 1217. So that's the Russell, that's the indexes. No reversal signals here yet. Not anywhere. What you have is projections that have played out, which typically end up being at least consolidation, but potentially more. And given the run that we've seen here, I mean, this has been since May. Remember, ever since Draghi came out, and that was here, and said we're going to do QE type operations, the Russell being the weakest of them, eventually turned, and it's been a straight up run ever since. You can, that's kind of like a regression mean there in this move higher, and you can see it's a 45-degree angle straight up. That's sustainable, can push higher, but just like before, once you finish off ABCD structures, what happens? You typically get some sort of a retrace. I would expect another one's probably just around the corner. Okay, so that's the indexes. If we look at the sectors, the major question is, where will the money rotate to? Because here again, you have some sectors that have driven this market that are played out. XLE is a good example of it. You have a rotation that has to go, this money has to go somewhere. You can see this big breakdown bar is trying to climb back up. I suspect it's going to try to climb right back up to it, test it, and fail. You can see the little slow, deliberate climb on the way back up as the market's been strong, but this thing is set up to range trade, at least for the near term. So that money that was there has to go somewhere. The other one that was stretched and is even more stretched now is the XLK, but it keeps heading higher, so there's no need for that money to go somewhere else. And I'm picking out the weak ones first. XLP is another one. Remember, this one had done a retest, tried to regenerate, but didn't even come close on that regeneration. Let me draw that again. So it was off here, broke down. What does that tell you? Well, that tells you it's in a range trade. Looks like we found the bottom of the range. We know the top is up here, so this thing's going to range trade for a while. Another one that looked strong and didn't look to come back, but now is the XLU. This one was also doing a retest and trying to regenerate. Not going to happen. It goes deeper. What's that do? That sets up a range trade as well. We have the largest part of the range in here. If you divide it out, you've got a middle range here and another one down there. It's in the bottom half now. It did sort of a doji today. I think you'll get some sort of bounce out of this, but this thing now looks like it's going to try to set up ABCD structure to test the lows of the big range. So that's the way those set up. Now those are the weak ones. The strong ones. Continue to be the SOX, although this one's extremely extended. And this one's almost met its targets now. This is 88.51. Target is 90, roughly. So you're within a couple points of the target at this point. Point and a half within the targets. IYT, still a range trade in my opinion, although it is higher. It did break out. I don't think it's going to go very far, and that's just because of the volume tells that it come in earlier. XLB had been testing the top for some time, finally breaks over. It doesn't have volume, but it's over the top. That one can extend. This had a nice consolidation. When you get a consolidation that long, then you can actually get the breakout. And so that consolidation in this area, and it's mainly that area, now you can double it, you can move it on up to the next one. And if you take the wider consolidation, right, then that would give you certainly a larger target. But that has a nice little consolidation, now an ABCD structure breaking to the top side. And if you map it out, it's from here up, and it doesn't go that much farther. That's why I drew the smaller one. It looks to me like the smaller one is the one that's going to be hit. That's the XLB, so still some money rotating there. XLF broke out today. So when you have a situation where the bank spreads start to get higher, they of course can go higher. You get the breakout, volume expands a little bit. This looks to carry. And so that's a big sector. It's a heavy weighted sector. XLF financials. That's definitely a place you'd like to see it rotate to, and that's where it is rotating to. XLI is starting to push up, but this looks like a range trade as well. And so you really have, and XLY is the XLY and XLV. XLY over 2 swing point highs extends. That should extend 2 to 3 bars. Bar 2 today. You may get one more. And then the other one is the XLV that just keeps pushing. So the healthcare sector, nice, strong, steady run higher. ABCD structure in place here, has a little bit farther to go as well. So you can see that there's still enough to keep this market hanging and pushing near term. At the same time, there's enough in terms of projections met for this thing to start to consolidate. And so I think you're going to see some sort of an uneven type situation where some things like this sector keep pushing, right? And then others start to consolidate and maybe push lower. And that's what it looks like here on the sectors, and also looks that way on the indexes. If we go to the Ox markets, here was an interesting situation because, we had a retest regen on the EEM, comes down. That retest was here, so this is the emerging markets. Retest was here and it held. What does it do? It regenerates, gets over 2 swing point highs. You have to think this thing's going to extend 2 to 3 bars now. And so EEM, money flowing into it again. Volume's not there. It's made pretty good runs, so I think maybe 2 to 3 bars is all you'll get. Then you'll get some sort of retest and then attempt to regenerate higher. The FM, the more risky of the foreign markets, really couldn't go anywhere today on the news. We already looked at the FXE. If we look over at the gold and silver markets, gold tried to pull back, gets into the bar, that top 127.23, closes just underneath it. That's the first attempt to actually get back. If we get back over and look at the silver, which has been the strongest of the two, that one still hanging up there, still above these highs. I don't think these markets are going to come in that deep. If you look at the bonds, as we were talking about, plunged down again. That's 4 days straight, nice big straight move. Problem with this, it did break multiple swing point lows, says it's going to try to go lower, but you can see some money came back into it at the end of the day. This is a big move already when you take and consider it as bonds. So even though it's broken the swing point lows and should extend, that extension is based on some other ideas. One of them being is how extended are you when you get here? Also, what do you have supporting you when you get there? You have a big bar here, came almost into it. I would think this thing's going to mill around for a while and then extend lower. So bonds, if they do mill around, if they do bounce, that would be a little bit negative on the equities. Dollar we looked at, and the oil market comes in again. So that risk premium that was built in as a result of Iraq, it's kind of getting taken out. It is back to retest regen area now. Volume's not big as it's coming back into it. I would expect, it's been more than 6 bars, I would expect you're going to get a bounce out of here, and that could be what gets the XLE back up to those breakdown levels that we talked about. So probably a bounce in the oil market. All right, one last thing, I'll take your questions. You can text me 303-912-9110, or you can email questions to support@tatoday.com, and I'll try to look at those for you. World markets. Let's go to the CACs, the DAX, and the FTSE. The CACs, the first one. This, I've been telling you for quite a while, is the weakest. It's trying to get back to this breakdown bar. It's going to have a good chance to get here and test it tonight. I suspect it's going to fail though. It's just not got the juice, and it's the weakest of the group. The strongest is the DAX, and the DAX is back up to the highs already. You got volume at the highs, at 10,051 roughly. You're at 10,029. I would think it's going to go up, test into those highs. If you're bullish, you'd like to see it stop right before them and just hang there, because there's not going to be any volume in Europe tomorrow. If we look at the FTSE, and remember the FTSE was trying to break down, and then it didn't break down. It got under the ABCD structure, just barely, got a doji on the day it got under it. And now you're back the other way. You're all the way over the high, so that negates an ABCD down, and that throws you into a range trade. And there's kind of 2 ranges in there, and it's in the top part of it, going to test the tops. Got swing point highs up there. You just got over 1. If it were to break out, it'd be a big deal. I think it's going to be hard to break out, and actually you got 3 of them. There's a swing point high here, here, and here. So you can see they're lined up. If it were to break out, you know, the way you'd really want it to happen is you'd like it to come up, get just to that area, come back down, and then break out after consolidating. That would get you a decent move higher. So that's the European market's looking pretty strong. Over in Asia, Hong Kong broke out last night. Does a doji over under. Probably going to get a pullback, retest, regen off that high. And the Chinese shares, the 8 shares trading in Hong Kong, they're coming back up to test their breakdown bar. That's at 10,502. They should hit it tonight, I would think. We had major currencies all around the world pretty much down in unison. You got an ABCD structure. This thing moves on currencies. We didn't look at the Japanese currency, but it was down pretty good today. I would expect that's going to put juice into this market tonight, which means you get a breakout and probably an extension off of that. So if you look at it on a weekly basis, that's that swing point high. If it does extend tonight, that's going to put it over the highs. That means you're going to have a breakout on 2 time frames, which means you can go higher. So the Nikkei is looking pretty good. Taiwanese market pushes up again. It's inside the big wide price spread bar. Well, not so much a wide price spread bar, high volume top type bar. That's probably going to signal a short-term top, get some sort of a range out of it. All right, let's see what kind of questions we might have here, if any. And nothing there. I think everybody's taking the night off. It's 4th of July. So I want to take a chance here and flip through some charts that I typically don't get to flip through. And I saw some members that were sharing some charts, some metals charts, for example. So let's pop in and just kind of look at what these metals look like that this gentleman has tagged as ones that he wants to watch. I'm just, you know, one of the great things you can do at TA Today, and we pull this over, and I've shown this before, I'll show it again, is you have watch lists. Those watch lists are integrated with all the other tools, but they're also shared, and you can look at watch lists that others share, and as this grows, you're going to find other people that you like what they do. And if you do, well, it's great. They're going to point out things to you that look good. So here's some of the ones that were pointed out that look good to this particular watch list. Boy, nothing wrong with silver wheaten, is it? That one just keeps pushing higher. Silca, this is actually a oil services. They do the sands, so they're kind of a miner, I guess, of sands and services to the oil and gas industry, mainly natural gas, pumping, fracking. That one looks a little worn to me. Royal Gold, this is kind of a financier of other gold miners. And that one's already tested the top. I wouldn't be surprised to see that one try to come back. It's got the GDX and the GDXJ. Let's see what they're doing. That looks to test the top again. And the small miners, yeah, that one's going to test the top as well. So some pretty nice moves. Last one on the group list here is FNV. That one came in, tested today, held, flipped back around. Looks like that one's going to try to test higher as well. Let's see about a couple other ones. So that one's, I was looking at a put list sell. That one's pretty straightforward. How about oil and gas? Let's see what we got here. These are Toronto guys. I haven't looked at Toronto in a while. Let's look at Toronto stocks. So these are exploration companies, it looks like, drillers. And I haven't seen the drillers in Toronto. These are not set up that well, actually. It's actually surprising. I'm wondering if that's a result of the currency cross trade. Yeah, these guys are struggling up there, most of them. That one looks pretty good. White cap looks pretty good. Nice retrace. This one has a breakdown bar. That looks like the XLE. 2 or 3 there look pretty good. Let me flip over to the XLF. Let's look at the major components in this group, because this is the one that's trying to take off. I'm going to take them with the highest weighting first. The best one is Wells Fargo. Let me get Wells Fargo up here, see what it looks like. And it's up testing the highs today. So that top is 53.05, closes at 53, doesn't have the volume. That's going to try to break out on Monday. Another one in the group, JP Morgan, doesn't look that good. Now these are the ones, JP Morgan and Wells Fargo will give us earnings next week, so that's 2 to watch next week as they get underway. The next highest weighting, actually after Wells Fargo, is Berkshire Hathaway. That one's going after the highs. Breaks over 3 swing point highs today. This one's probably going to carry. And it's going to carry right back to the top and try to get over it. So Berkshire Hathaway looking pretty good. Next highest weighting is Bank of America. And that one tests up into that and fails today. They had a big upgrade today from one of the broker dealers. I think that one isn't going to go anywhere. That's kind of interesting. 4th largest weighting is kind of dead. JPM's kind of dead. Wells Fargo and Berkshire Hathaway, the 2 heaviest weightings, are the ones that are holding this up. And if you go down the line here, you got USB. That looks like it's going to test the top. I don't know if it'll be able to get over it. MetLife Insurance / Finance gets over the highs. That one looks good. Insurance as a group still looks pretty good. And Goldman Sachs looking like it wants to test a high. Speaking of insurance, here's the insurance ETF. And that one doesn't look too bad. We had looked about a week ago at KRE, the regional banking stocks. I had said that they really looked good, looked like they were going to push higher. And they have pushed higher quite nicely, actually. Looks like that will test the highs again. I'm running out of time here. So let's talk for a second just about where we are and what it looks like is happening. So in general, it's first of the month. You got through the 2 big reports and you got the pop out of them. The question is this going to be a sell the news? In other words, you've already had the big run. Are we going to see the sell the news effect? You build up, you buy, and then afterwards you sell. Well, today was so light in terms of those trading. that I don't think today really tells you. That tell will be Monday. And so Monday's going to be the day really as to whether you're going to see people actually pay up more in front of earnings or if they're going to back off. Next week has almost no data domestically, a little bit internationally. And so from that perspective, you're going to have a dearth of data going into earnings after a run. To me, that's a sell the news type setup. So Monday will be the test. We'll see if they start selling that news instead of buying it more. And then it will be up to the earnings. And the earnings actually look to come in better than expected so far. So that's a positive, but you may see some sort of a short-term top as a result of the push. Or you may get a little strength Monday morning and then you get the top. But it does look like a little retrace coming next week. And then we'll see what earnings do, because the earnings are going to be key. Typically, the best earnings come out the first 2 to 3 weeks. Those are the strongest earnings, or at least the last year and a half it's been that way. And so if they can't move them higher off the initial earnings, the early ones, it's probably going to be an interesting earnings season. If they do, then the question is what does the second tier do 2-3 weeks in? Actually about 3 weeks in before they start hitting. 3 to 4 weeks. So that's it for tonight. Have a great 4th. I'll see you next time. I'm LA. This is and it was your daily TA wrap. Have a great one, and I'll see you on the next show. Good night, folks. Take care.